Hello guys, welcome to a Shadowverse Worlds Beyond video. So, the newest expansion, Chronicle of Destiny, is coming out the 29th of this month, so I wanna review some of the cards we're losing with the third rotation once that happens. I also wanna review a few deck lists that run these cards, because that's how they were proven useful in the first place. They could be a core, tech, or even a niche option in certain archetypes. So yeah, I want to review the history of these cards. This time it's a turn for Infinity Evolve to get out of the rotation format. This was Shadowverse Worlds Beyond second card set, and it featured a lot of familiar faces from the first game. It brought new archetypes to life and also reinforced existing ones from the previous set. Yeah, so let's get right into it. I don't want to keep you waiting, let's just dive right in, okay? Here are what I consider were the most relevant cards for forest decks while they were in rotation. Most were used in Roach and Tempo Pixie lists. Out of all of them, only Cynthia, Chivalrous Elf, I believe, was the one that has been relevant in more recent archetypes such as Evo Forest. That's not to say they're no longer good cards, but the function they serve has no purpose in the current meta. Fairy Fencer, for example, was used as a combo piece for one play point after super evoing a follower, which was oftentimes a baby carbuncle, and as a fairy generator on turn 2 to avoid falling behind on tempo. However, these cards haven't seen play, especially Fairy Fencer, because Carbuncle rotated out last set, and there is no more Roach or OTK archetype for Forest as of right now on format. But maybe that will change. We have Theste, which benefits from combo, but that's a whole different story. Both Cynthia and Titania, Queen of Fairies, were used to manage mid-game board threats and going white, and mostly to overwhelm the opponent by the sheer amount of bodies on board. Not to mention that Titania's Crest will usually come in handy when playing a combo-oriented deck that will value those fairies in hand. Just to mention a few, Forest, Roach, and maybe even some Rose Queen shenanigans. Another card that was used in conjunction of Titania was Guardian's Allure to manage hand size and draw cards to dig deeper into the deck and find the right combo pieces to go off in a single turn. However, I don't think it has been relevant during this expansion. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Este does not want a spell that absorbs followers. It wants to split set followers because it's buffing them, and Evo Forest has much better options, or at least it used to have, with Glade before it rotated out, and also has that silver 5 cost spell whose name I can't fully remember right now. Lastly, we have Limaga, Untamed Wild, which was used in a variety of decks, mostly as a way to buy time while pinging the opponent and locking up to 2 of their board spaces. It was mostly relevant for control and combo-oriented decks that wanted to end the game with a Roach turn or Isuria maybe, because it was a huge body and you were committing a whole super evo point for her, but it was often that setup turn that you needed before unleashing hell upon them, basically. Now, moving on to Swordcraft, the picture is a bit more dire, but not hopeless at all. We're losing a powerhouse that has seen play since it came out, like it is Gildaria, Anathema of Peace, and maybe a few other cards that have found a home in newer decks, like Evo Rally or Enhanced Sword. Now, let's start with Seria. Seria Gunslinger Maid has been on and off sword lists ever since it came out, basically. However, it has proved to be useful in early game against aggro and mid-range decks to clear 1 health tokens and followers alike with its fanfare ability. Both Band of the Battle Princesses and Rose, or Rose, I don't know how is it called to be honest, how you pronounce that, were not too relevant at first, but as of this time they are played for their enhanced cost mostly. One serves as a board clear and the other serves to tutor Metra out of the deck and also reduces her costs to 0. Princess's Picnic has seen play on and off too, however this time she has remained relevant for a bit longer than Seria thanks to her ability to give you a follow play in Nonia 7th Mate. Nonia basically gains Bane and +1/+1 on fanfare if Brim is in play, which means that going second you could coin out Prim on turn 1 and have a 3/3 Ward and Bane token on board that could, be hard to remove or maybe will help you keep the tempo of the game in your favor. Now, Gildaria is such a strong card that has never been out of fashion. Getting a board clear, a free Super Evo and a white board at the same time made her quite a versatile card on mid to late game plays for virtually any Swordcraft deck. Finally we have Uriah's Levin Authority, I hope I said that right, which was a tech choice in slower decks to get an upper hand against board-centric opponents that had no way to remove him other than rush followers. He could also shut down lethal patterns that involve storm followers other than Odin Twilight Fate, which we'll be talking about shortly. When it comes to Runecraft, Earth-right decks are getting a huge blow to be honest. 4 out of 5 cards featured here belong to said archetype and make up for a number of plays and patterns within each game. The only spell boost card we're losing is Virgin Rejected Artes, again, I don't know, which was a lot more relevant before Legends Rise brought it out, but it's still a loss, I guess. Melvi Adoring Witch was a staple for Earth-right decks. It provided a turn 2 play with card draw thanks to the Witch's New Brew she added to your hand on fanfare, and Virgin, as I've said, was relevant when Spell Boost was the main archetype for Rune, but nonetheless it offered a powerful effect on Evo with her crest and fanfare abilities. She could ramp your spell boost count on hand with her onion patches and offered a solution on board as well, and also served as a deterrent for your opponent to play followers, as they would be giving you bodies for you to crash your onion patches against. There is also an Enchanting Perfumer, which was a follower that could be used as a board removal, that also gave you Earth Sigils along the way to fuel your Earth right on following turns. As for Norman, Adamant Alchemist, and Lilanthem Anathema of Idacity, both were the first real win conditions the archetype received, and only fell out in favor of newer cards from the latest set, which funnily enough was another Lilanthem. Now, more importantly, Norman was such a versatile card that it was used even in spell boost lists that needed a healing and board presence from the Guardian Golems. As for Dragoncraft, they are also getting quite a punch. Phylene, White Frost Bloom, an entire archetype contained within Feni, Prismatic Phoenix, and what is basically half of the Marine and Megalorca synergies they hold as of right now are rotating out. Wise Guardian Dragon could be considered the least relevant card out of this batch. However, let's not forget it was included in Evolved Dragoncraft during the 2025 Shadowverse World Grand Prix, managing to reach the grand finals of said tournament, being piloted by DFM jury and winning the whole thing. So let's give credit what credit's due, right? As for ramp, their early to mid game is getting a lot weaker without Violin and Seasoned Merman, as well as the recovery of the deck getting hit with the rotation of Neptune, Arbiter of Tides. Although more recent lists don't rely as heavily on her and the Marine followers thanks to the addition of cards like Urns, less healing will always mean less chances for the deck to come back into the game once they reach overflow, basically. Now, Fenny made an entire variation of Dragoncraft lists that could overwhelm the opponent with huge followers, possible with just her fanfare ability to reduce your deck's cost by half. Even if it has not been relevant for a while, losing the access to said cost-cutting ability makes building an anti-control deck a lot harder. Abysscraft is the class losing the most with this rotation, in my opinion, getting hit across every single archetype the craft can play. Cultivator of Malice, Ghostly Soiree, Vuela the Blastwing and Winged Servants were used in a variety of decks as early or even mid-game plays. The first two, along with Vuela, served to more aggressive and mid-range oriented decks, while Winged Servants filled the need for healing and early board in slower decks such as Mode and Evolve Abyss. Excella Nocturnal General function as a storm finisher for purely aggro decks, since she needs a white board already established to buff her attack. The viability outside decks that swarm the board early game is fairly limited. Also, Undead Soldier as well as Karen, Stygian Oarswoman were used in mid-range lists that aim to, get a sticky board that will allow them to buff their followers on subsequent turns or snowball their board advantage to close up the game. Now, there's the Jinsetsu and Jizuki Twin Calamities issue. This one hurts the most for control-oriented decks that benefited from the first effect of destroying basically the entire board and healing by 4. I know 4 HP might not sound as much, but considering your starting life's 20, 4 HP is about a quarter of that. Besides, their effect being non-targeted made them all the more valuable to work around followers with Aura, which are annoying to deal with in Abysscraft, even if you have like Vayne followers, which the class is supposed to have, but they don't really, not really at the moment. Havencraft's entire ward archetype is getting gutted with the exit of Wilbert the Solid Paladin and either Empyrean Guardian, while Amulet Haven is also losing Luminous Censer, Colette Barrage Exorcists, and Maddening Benison. Oh my god, Maddening Benison. Out of all these cards, Luminous Censer stands out the most for its use in Crest and Lion Tooth Amulet decks, for the ability to heal 4 HP while progressing their game plan. Colette might not be as relevant, for she has only seen a bit of play, on Kukishiro lists as early game removal. Talking about, Crest Haven means addressing the Maddening Benison nerf. This card was so powerful it had to be nerfed, and even then it saw play, albeit with less copies per deck, but it offered a powerful 10 health recovery that allowed these decks to come online and avoid the downside of it by delaying it with Marwyn's spell or by just having so many crests active that the effect wouldn't even register. As for ward archetypes, they will be basically non-existent post-rotation, as Wilbert made them all viable and either pulled an entire board of followers out of your deck and gave them all +2 health and aura, which is not even considering the +1/+2 effect from Wilbert. It made them incredibly difficult to remove you didn't have an answer already on hand. There is also Divine Guard, which was a spell used in those lists as early game removal, but it quickly fell out in favor of other cards that either gave you card draw or more followers. The last class we'll be reviewing today is Portalcraft, which receives a couple of hits, but it's otherwise well established in the meta. Namely, older artifact cards are rotating out, like Artifact Catapult, Flight of Icarus, Cornelia, Ember of Darkness, and Karua, Eternal Arts, which as of this month received a buff to have a moment of glory before leaving us for good. Cornelia stopped being relevant a while ago as the Gear of Remembrance she provides on Fanfare is not as useful as it once was, but the rest of these cards saw play in newer artifact lists as card draw engine and for copying artifacts in hand onto the board alongside cards from the latest set. So with them out, we can only wonder if the next expansion will bring enough support that keeps the archetype afloat. My guess is that it will, but let's see, okay? We'll also be reviewing the new cards once they come out. On the other hand, Puppet Cat, Akim, Lord of Despair, and Swai, Symphonious Heart were used in Puppet decks that were much more powerful when their signature finisher Orchis Newfound Heart rotated out. Well, before it rotated out. Still, Swai keeps seeing play in a number of lists that make use of her as a strong Evo turn, thanks to Victoria and the enhanced puppets she summons. Both given the world ability makes a challenge to clear Swai without the right tools or spending an Evo point in return. Finally, we reached the neutral section of this video. The card everyone will miss, I'm sure, is Odin. He was removal and provided up to 7 points of damage using a super Evo point at the same time. We've talked a lot about how versatile cards are the ones that hurt the most for all the crafts to lose, and Odin will not be the exception. He could either remove a ward out of the way, like Wilbur, and allow you to push damage, or just remove a threat on board, like, let's say a Dragoncraft follower with Intimidate will be, and help you start to push back. It cannot be stressed enough how impactful Odin could be. In second place, there's Grimnir, Heavenly Gale. He was used in mostly mid-range lists and control decks that benefited off his crest 2 damage AoE as a ward clear. He also was good just as an early game ward to slow down aggro decks. On a bit of the same note, Darkside was a niche card that saw play in classes that liked the damage it provided late game, but also the removal side of it during the early turns. Decks such as Milteo Abyss ran 1 to 2 copies of it at times, not always, but at times, since most of the damage will come in the form of followers like ghosts that will vanish themselves at the end of the turn, so the defense drop wouldn't really matter. And that will be all. I hope you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. I love Shadowverse so much. I've been playing it since 2017 or so. But this is my first real shot at making content for it. I might not be the best player. I only dabbled in a few community tournaments and also Shadowverse Open. But I love the game. I really enjoyed discussing and analyzing every aspect of it, so please like and subscribe if you want to watch more content like this. If you also agree or disagree with anything said here, or if you think I missed something, feel free to leave a comment. Any and all feedback is welcome. Also remember, announcement, I believe. I'll be posting a second video just like this one, but I'll be speaking in Spanish. You have to have noticed my thick accent. I don't know why it kind of flared up here, but yeah. See you another time. Hope you really enjoyed it, and that's it. Bye bye.